I did. I asked my doctor and all the GI specialists. I asked my family doctor. I said, "Is there anything I can be eating differently that would assist in recovering from this?" They said, "Oh no, I don't think you understand. Like there is no recovery from this. Like this is a lifelong. You are on medication for the rest of your life. But don't worry. Like we'll find something that works really well for you." They kept telling me all of these things that I was seeing happen. The support that I received from you guys was very instrumental because when I was seeing my weight decrease, when I was seeing my needing to go to the washroom increase and everything like that, it was all of these things pointed me towards like this isn't working. But as I spoke to you, every few days or once a week or whatever it was, just to have someone say, "Listen, I know that that is happening, and I'm not surprised. That is exactly what we are expecting to happen. I know this sucks right now. Like, you might not love the flavors, but at the same time, like, your health has to come first. It has to be number one because my experience is that if you lose your health, absolutely nothing else matters by comparison. I mean, like, I feel the healthiest today that I have felt long before I was ever diagnosed. Like I knew years before that ever began that I had, some stomach issues that like, it's just, oh, well, this is just how it is. And turns out I probably should have been a bit more attentive to that, in advance rather than having to wait for something to go really sideways. But what we learn as we go, and I just hope that other people can hear this and know, like, this doesn't have to be your life. Like being sick does not have to be your life.
Hey guys, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at highcarbhealth and also click on the green H so you get to see exactly what I eat and what I get up to every single day. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell icon so that you get all our notifications for our recent uploads. Hey guys, welcome to another video. It is testimonial time again, and we have the lovely Steve here who is willing to share his story with you guys so that some of you might relate to what he has been through. And I think we're going to go through, as we always do, what his life was like before, how did he find us, what the program was like, and what his life is like now, and what advice he would give to anyone as well. So let's start off with introducing yourself, Steve, and talk about what your life was like before, what treatments you had previously taken in the past, whether it was medical treatment or anything. Talk about that, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to what you went through because it's almost the same thing that we're hearing all the time where doctors don't necessarily say anything about diet and lifestyle for treating or managing or healing this disease. So if you'd like to just start with, talk about who you are and what you do and what your life was like before you got diagnosed and when you got diagnosed.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, so my name's Steve. I live in Canada, Alberta, and I guess my experience with, inflammatory bowel disease started in, well, probably November of 2017 and kind of escalated a little bit throughout November and into December. And I'd seen my family doctor, I would say, about 6 times in the course of December. Every time, things kept getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And like, bowel movements were getting like more and more frequent. And he kept telling me, unless you see blood, like, don't worry about it. And sure enough, December 31st, 2017, New Year's Eve of all times, was the first time that I saw blood. And so I ended up in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And they kind of ran some tests, the sort of tests that a lot of us are familiar with already. But yeah, so they did, scope and blood work and everything like that. And they figured, oh, you have ulcerative colitis. And I'd never heard of this before. I had heard of Crohn's because I have a friend of mine who was dating a girl who had Crohn's, but really wasn't too familiar with what that was or anything like that. So anyways, they kind of sent me home with 5-ASA, which is a medication they treat, I think, ulcerative colitis with in some cases. And I was on that for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And basically, we ended up on vacation. We went to Mexico. And when we were there, I had some pretty serious health problems come up, which were heart related. And
Oh wow.
so I ended up pericarditis and myocarditis, which is like there's a membrane around your heart which filled up with fluid.
Mm.
And so it was putting a lot of pressure on my chest, and I collapsed in the shower and ended up leaving the resort in an ambulance. And I spent 5 of the 7 days we were in Mexico in the hospital, so that was a total disappointment.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so we kind of didn't really know what to make of it. And so it was only after we came home and they reran all the tests and they sent me home again and all this. And then about a month or two later, I was back in the hospital for all these gastrointestinal issues. And another gastroenterologist had said, "Oh, did no one tell you that 5-ASA is very commonly associated with myocarditis and pericarditis?" So that was something I had no idea, and my GI specialist did not mention that as a potential risk of the medication. So that was, the first real major thing that happened. And so in addition to the 5-ASA, they also had me on immunosuppressants. And so basically, like right as soon as all those medications began, you lose the ability to fight off a toothache, a common cold, like everything just kicks your butt. And so that was the first month or two of having ulcerative colitis diagnosed. And then I ended up switching doctors, and she did some other tests and figured, no, actually you don't have UC, you have Crohn's disease. And I thought, okay, whatever, we're figuring this out as we go along. And so they put me on some biologics, which I was on Entyvio for about 6 or 7 months, and again in combination with immunosuppressants. And it worked a little bit, but again, it wasn't great. And they'd always say, "Oh yeah, like you must be feeling terrific." And I'm thinking, like, I'm waiting, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Right.
feel sick. I feel kind of like garbage.
And
Um,
during this time, did you ever think about diet to solve this, or what were you eating
but yeah.
before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, basically the diet that I was eating before all of this began was, not healthy, but it wasn't terribly unhealthy. Like it was kind of somewhere in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
meat at least once a day, maybe twice, in some cases 3 times a day.
Yep.
And eggs and all that stuff to go with it. That was the diet that I was eating. But I did, I ate a lot of veggies and a lot of fruit as well, but certainly not the volume that I'm consuming nowadays. But yeah, basically it's, I was eating, just some junk food and, all the stuff that normal people eat.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I asked my doctor and all the GI specialists, I asked my family doctor, I said, is there anything I can be eating differently that, would assist in, recovering from this? They said, "Oh no, I don't think you understand. Like, there is no recovery from this. Like, this is a lifelong, you are on medication for the rest of your life. But don't worry, like, we'll find something that works really well for you," they kept telling me. And yeah, so as I was saying, they put me on Entyvio after the 5-ASA didn't really work. They put me on this Entyvio medication with immunosuppressants for about 6 months, and that didn't work. And then they said, "Okay, like, you have failed this drug; it's not working for you." And again, like, I think I've been into the hospital probably 10 times in the first year and a half to 2 years. And basically, after I failed Entyvio, they said, "Okay, we're going to try you on this Remicade medication," which, again, a lot of people are familiar with this. They treat it for different types of arthritis and other things, I think, as well. But they put me on this, and they told me this is the best medication out there. You're gonna respond well to it. It's gonna be terrific. And yeah, so I was on that for probably almost a year, and it didn't really work either. Like I just was not seeing the kind of response that they kept telling me I should be expecting. And, again, like I kept asking every doctor, every specialist who I would see, I'd say, listen, like, maybe a different opinion, but are you aware of any sort of dietary changes I can make? And they said, no, 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 there's no rectifying this problem. Like you are sick forever. We're just going to manage the symptoms. And I said, well, that sounds reasonable, but like kind of unfortunate. And so, yeah,
And
they kind of,
you
they
were
put it on.
searching for the answer for a very long time as well, and your wife was always kind of, worried about you as well, and she went
Yeah,
through quite a bit as well during this process, because obviously it's not nice to see your husband go through, you know, all these different things and then the medicine
yeah,
not working and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty scary time, absolutely. Like I know my wife was very concerned. My parents were pretty worried as well. And again, no one in my family had gone through this before, so it was kind of unfamiliar territory. And yeah, so I mean, in since I was diagnosed in December 2017, like up until I found you guys and began the program, I was probably had 120 doctor's appointments, hospital
Wow.
visits, lab tests, blood work, stool samples, all kinds of things. Like every time you'd go for an appointment, it was like, oh, well, we're going to send you for follow-up appointments because of this, and this as well. And we want to send you for, ultrasounds and blood work and just like the list goes on and on. And, it was so frustrating because every time my phone would ring and it was this hospital or it was this doctor or this, lab, I would get so angry every time because I'm thinking like this is insane. Like I'm 32, 31 years old. I shouldn't be dealing with this. This is craziness. And it would bother me so badly.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, so
And so, okay, so you found High Carb Health and you had the first consult with me, obviously. How did that go? And what was your first impressions after seeing, the YouTube channel and the website and other testimonials?
yeah, so the way I came across you guys was I kind of come to the end of my rope. Like I was so up to here with like just everything that was going on. Felt like my head was spinning. And basically, I had told my wife, I said, listen, like, I don't care at this point what it takes. Like, I will do anything. Like, if and I didn't even know, like, there was no good information out there to aid this, like, search for health. And so I said to her, like, I don't know what I have to do here, but whatever it takes, like, if I need to use cannabis 10 times a day to subdue what's going on here, that's what I'm going to do. And she said, okay, like we will pursue whatever we have to find health for you. And literally the next day she was on the internet and she's like, hey, like I found this book called Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. David Klein. And so immediately we ordered a digital copy of it and we ordered two hard copies of it as well, but we needed to get reading the digital copy while we were waiting for the hard copies to show up in the mail. So we just started devouring this book, and as I'm reading through it, I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, like this might be it, like this sounds pretty good, because he talks in his book about the medications being very unhelpful and like not effective, and they just they hamper your body's natural desire to heal itself and recover from things. You scratch or cut your arm and it heals.
Hmm.
So, I mean, our bodies clearly know how to do that. But, if you're poisoning yourself day in, day out with foods that your body cannot handle, that's just not in the cards for you, right? So, yeah, so we started reading this book, and I don't know how we came across. I think we searched on YouTube about David Klein's book, and always you're going to get some naysayers and you're going to get some people like yourself who said, hey guys, like I found this book too and look what it has done for my life. And so that kind of pointed us in the direction of high carb health. And yeah, once we got on your website and we saw general layout of the plan and some of the theory around why this sort of approach works. And then, the testimonial page, which I'm proud to be a part of nowadays. That stuff was super helpful, just knowing that, like, here's a bunch of other people who have had the same or a very similar experience to what I've been going through, who have gone through the program and come out the other side. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to mention that this was not a quick fix for you, and this was not a short-term thing for you. You committed to this, and that was what made you come out the other side, because you knew what you had to do. And we're going to be talking about this a bit later, but that was the drive that you had. When nothing else had helped, you said, look, this is my last resort, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And
Yeah.
I think that enthusiasm, that motivation, that focus, and that commitment was just everything that I needed when I was talking to you, to kind of go, right, this guy knows what he wants. And so talk about, because you tried doing this before you started with us, right? You tried
Yeah,
to do the diet.
I got about a 3-week head start.
Yeah.
So just using David Klein's book, he talks a lot about bananas and papayas being like pretty easy on the gut and just like a good initial starting point. So, I think it was June 23rd, 2019 that I said, okay, like, no more meat, no more dairy, no more fish, no more eggs, no more alcohol, caffeine, preservatives, salt, sugar. I cut everything out in one shot. And I'll tell you what, that was pretty horrifying. Like, the cravings, I was waking up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would have like pizzas and hamburgers like swirling through my mind. Like, I was craving all the stuff that I was accustomed to eating for my whole life. And the cravings were so strong that I just, like, it was kind of unreal. But I guess that's an indication that your body's trying to do something pretty significant.
It is, yeah. And definitely it's part of the process to have these cravings and to have these feelings, because we're conditioned to eat these foods, and the,
Yeah.
the preservatives, the MSG and the flavorings, all that. It's very addictive. And I
Yeah.
think there's two sides. It's like, okay, taste buds or colon, you need to decide what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the program, and let's talk about how you found our support and what you kind of went through. And I think we'll talk about some of the food that you're eating as well, and how committed that you were to this as well. So let's talk about that and how you felt, and I'd say how the healing process went for you.
Oof. All right. Well, yeah. So the support, like, I mean, you and I first spoke kind of before we agreed to work with one another, and I was, like I said, I was so at the end of what felt like all available options that I felt, I'm gonna give this 100%, because, like, if I don't want to, I know that it's very unfortunate, but, like, there's people out there with colostomy bags hanging out of the side of their abdomen, and I did not want to be having to deal with that in addition to, compromised health and all this. So, I mean, when I saw what you guys were up to, I just thought, I'm going to give it 100%, and, like, we'll see what happens here. What do I have to lose? Like, I felt at that point that I was already losing so much that, I, like, it was worth giving it all I had. And so, yeah, like, when you and I started working together, you were very helpful. Like, as you read through David Klein's book, there's a lot of information there, but a lot of it kind of sounds like theory. Like, here's why this is the way it is. But I just needed some practical step by step. Here's what we're going to do this week. I want you to cut this, and that. I want you to focus primarily on eating these things. And yeah, like, I mean, it was helpful to the point of, like, even getting specific recipes for, here, we're going to make a juice, and I want you to add these ingredients to it. And, step by step, it was just super helpful, because even, like, I mean, my process with you guys began July 2019. And I don't think that I was really feeling any sort of improvement until probably August,
Mm.
September, because those first like 4 or 5 months that were in this program, I was losing weight. I was going to the bathroom more frequently instead of less, and all of these things that I was seeing happen, the support that I received from you guys was very instrumental because when I was seeing my weight decrease, when I was seeing my needing to go to the washroom increase and everything like that, it was all of these things pointed me towards like this isn't working. But as I
Mm.
spoke to you, every few days or once a week or whatever it was, just to have someone say, listen, I know that that is happening and I'm not surprised. That is exactly what we are expecting to happen. Like, I mean, there's a whole slew of very unusual reactions that your body goes through when you're detoxing. Like, I mean, I had my ears popping for months. I had, you know, as the weight loss was increasing and I was just losing more and more and more weight, I was, anytime I'd stand up from a chair or get up from a lying down position, I would, my vision would go,
Mm.
and I couldn't see. Everything went black, and I'd have to kind of hold up against a wall just to not fall over. Yeah, trust me, I couldn't have done this without you. I know I would not have stuck it out.
Definitely. And I think, when you're in that position, you're kind of freaking out, obviously, aren't you? Because you're kind of like, what is my body doing? And so when you have me to tell you that, okay, yeah, I've been through the same thing, and so many other people have also gone through this, it will pass eventually.
Yeah,
And that gives you that reassurance and that the body is doing the healing work behind the scenes. And
oh
you
yeah,
need to understand that, and obviously when you do understand that, I think it becomes easier to go through that process. And that's what's key here, because a lot of people do find that it doesn't feel right. And when it doesn't feel right, when you start doubting, and you probably did doubt at some points, it doesn't help the healing process, obviously. And so even for myself, I made so many mistakes, I gave up so many times, and I had to keep I just kept rereading the book, and I was like, look, this is what is supposed to happen. This is how the body heals. So when you get headaches, when you get fevers, when you get rashes, when you get mucus, all these things are because your body is trying to reverse itself, reverse the damage, and the
yeah,
damage is caused by previous eating habits and lifestyle and all those things. So it's like a transformation that you're going through, and I think you understood that really well, and you understood that this is what the body needs to do in order to be in the position that you are right now. And that
yeah,
was what was key with yourself. And I guess you didn't have any distractions. You knew the path, and the light was getting brighter and brighter as you went along. Obviously, it did take you a while to come out of your healing process and see the results. But as you started to see the results, as the urgency started to become less, as the bowel
yeah,
movement started to kind of come down, as you started to form the bowel movements. I remember one day when you obviously sent me a picture, and and that's what we do as well, by the way, is that it's not only support that way. It's because we need to know this information so that I can see how your bowel is working and the condition it's in. And so when
yeah,
you first see that formation happening, you get excited because you think, hang on a second, I've had diarrhea for so long, and then I see some improvement.
yeah,
That's the key that really pushes you further and further and further. And yes, we had cravings. Yes, we had all these things going on, but I think you started to enjoy the diet a little bit more. The smoothies in the morning were just, something that you just absolutely started loving. There was a
yeah.
point where obviously there's always one point of that journey where bananas are just disgusting, but I think you got over that point, right? So talk about your smoothies and how you were making them, and you were eating a
Yeah,
lot too. And oh,
yeah,
talk about your weight loss too. So when you started off and what you got
yeah,
down to.
sure. Yeah, so when I met you guys, I was about 210, maybe 215 pounds,
Yeah,
and I'm 6'2", so that's not terribly overweight, but it is a little bit overweight.
yeah, yeah.
And so that was my starting point, about 215. And then in September, that was when I hit my lowest point of weight loss, and I got down to 140 pounds. So that's basically like a skeleton. And,
Yeah.
it was scary. Like, it was scary for me because, I've always had a pretty decent amount of strength. Like I've worked, a lot of physical jobs over the years. And so, for example, like I could do 40 push-ups continuously before any of this stuff began. And when I got to September and I was 140 pounds, I thought, you know what, this is about as low as I can go. I'm pretty sure here, hopefully. Let me see what I'm capable of in terms of muscle and strength. And so I got down and I tried to do some push-ups. I did half of one and I collapsed on the floor. I was so weak, I'd lost like all my body mass and everything. And I thought, oh my God, like this is terrifying. And so that was the weight loss. But once we got to that point, I think we endured that low point of weight for a few weeks, and then it was like, okay, I want you to introduce, in addition to the fruit smoothies, which that was a big part. Breakfast and lunch. I go through about 4 liters of fruit smoothies a day, and so for me now, I still do that right now, and what that looks like is about 18 to 20 bananas. That's a liter of coconut water.
Yeah.
It is probably 5 to 7 cups of, whether it be mixed berries or pineapple, mango, peaches, kiwis. So I can kind of mix and match and keep things interesting that way. So like I said, I began that right from the get-go, not with all those other kind of tropical ingredients, but it was primarily bananas and blueberries in the beginning. But as we kind of came further and further out of the woods, we were, able to introduce more.
And now you can't go without your smoothie, right? I mean, you feel so good, and we're going to talk about that later. But you felt so good in the morning because immediately when you woke up in the morning, you just wanted that smoothie to nourish you
Yeah.
and to soothe your colon. I think that was the best thing. And you saw the stomach be at ease when you ate the fruit, didn't you? And I think that
Yeah.
was a good indication of, you could see that your body is kind of eventually starting to come around again. And once you hit that 140 point, I think that's the lowest point, and then the body starts to come back up again. And I think that your determination to come back up was really important as well. And I saw you just understand this whole process, and I was just like, you were so confident, and you just knew what you needed to do. And that was, again, another reason why you're here today talking to me. So let's talk about your bowels, and I guess what was the worst thing that you found about the healing process, and what was the best thing that you found about the healing process?
I guess one of the worst things about going through the healing process was, the complete, or pretty close to complete, absence of flavors that you're familiar with and things that you actually want to eat. Like I'm talking, you're stripping away everything that you enjoy eating in exchange for a bunch of stuff that it is necessary, but it doesn't taste good. Like we're talking no spices, no salt, no pepper, no flavors of any kind other than like pureed sweet potatoes or pureed butternut squash. And, it's just like, this is insane. And that went on for months and months. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, and it got kind of depressing a little bit to have to realize that like this is my life now. And again, that's a conclusion that you would come to if you were doing this on your own. But with you guys supporting the process, it was like, I know this sucks right now. Like, you might not love the flavors, but at the same time, like your health has to come first. It has to be number one, because my experience is that if you lose your health, absolutely nothing else matters by comparison. There's no comparison to having your health intact. If you're compromised, it sucks. It just ruins every other aspect of your life. Your friendships tank, your relationships, they also take a hit from that. And it's scary stuff to go through. But again, like, the alternative is sickness and frequent hospital visits and all kinds of invasive tests that they want to run. And It's just like, man,
And
like,
it's years to compared to months, right? So it's like
yeah,
you've been doing this for years beforehand, and here you have, maybe 3 or 4 months of really just dedication, and that
yeah.
I think outweighed what you were doing in the past. That's why you really stuck to it, because you knew that you didn't want to go back to that life, and you
Well, and
wanted
I
this
knew that
change.
there was no other alternative is the other thing too. Like I'd been through their attempts to
Mm,
correct my health problems, and it just was not working out. Like I could not reconcile that against this like disbelief that like this is how my life is going to be. Like I would not accept that. And I had an appointment with my GI specialist about maybe 2 weeks after I'd started this diet prior to hooking up with you guys. And she said, "Oh, well, I really don't think you should go off the medications. I think you're going to need those in combination with the diet that you're doing." And it was basically when she said that, I said, "Listen, like you've had 2 years of poking and prodding and
mm,
trying to figure out how to get me healthy." I said, "I'm done. I'm not gonna just lie down here and die for you because I've got more to live here than what you're explaining to me. Like this is not gonna do." And so, they had their own, oh, well, good luck with that and see you later and whatever. And I mean, the other thing too is every time I would go to the GI clinic at the hospital, the waiting room was full of
mm.
people who looked sick and defeated and unwell and depressed. And
You didn't
it's
want to be that
heartbreaking.
person. You didn't want to be that
It's
person.
heartbreaking to
Yeah.
see that because, yeah, like I didn't want to be there. I looked around, I thought, terrific. Like I can count myself one among these people here now. Like, and it was just like, it was so aggravating and so, infuriating to think like this is my life now. And so that's why I said to her, I said, "Listen, I'm not just going to lie down here and die. Like, I'm
Mm.
not going to do it." And so, that was kind of my point of like commitment to the whole process. But yeah, so I guess just going back to what you were asking, like in terms of the foods that we were eating in the early days of the program, it was very upsetting and depressing to think like, oh no, I'll never eat anything that tastes good again. And you kept telling me like, listen, like this is the healing diet. It is necessary, but once we come out the other side of this, there's all kinds of awesome recipes which I've been enjoying now for months.
Yep. Yep.
And it's still all very compliant. It's veggie based. It's whole food. It's
Yep.
all that stuff.
Definitely.
And like my taste buds have done a complete 180, completely.
It's because you feel good. That's why. It's because you
Yeah,
feel just amazing because of what you eat, and you've never felt this way before, even previous to having this disease. And that's why you continue to eat this way, and that's why I continue to eat the same foods that I eat as well, because feeling good is better than anything tastes. And I say that to a lot of people as well. And I don't think people understand how good it feels to be at this point because they haven't been there. And
yeah,
so anyone can say they feel good, but you have to experience that level of feeling amazing to stay there. And then when you maybe eat something you shouldn't, or you probably still keep it at plant based, but when you see that little drop in energy levels and you feel a little bit more lethargic, etc., you kind of go, hey, I don't want to feel like this. I want to go back to where I was feeling. So those are the foods that are going to keep you there, and,
yeah,
and what you eat determines how amazing you will feel. Um,
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about post kind of healing diet, and I guess when we started to introduce some other foods, I think that's when you started to enjoy the food a little bit more, and then you started to see the results, and
Yeah,
that was what was key. And I think just changing it up a little bit, and that's why every single person that comes through is very different. So we have to individualize what we suggest to you, and because you're in constant communication with us, telling us how your bowels are, we can then tweak some things here and there and go, okay, maybe you can introduce a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I think that was what gave you some more push because you kind of felt better about what you were eating, and then that turned a corner as well in terms of your health because you really pushed yourself even more, and that's what got you to this point. So talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think I like I said, I'd reached about 140 pounds in September, And, it's at one point, I think it was maybe late September, early October, you'd said, okay, like we're going to start with some good solid foods now.
Mm.
And again, like up until that point, it had been a lot of pureed soups and things like that that just weren't really hitting the spot. And so you'd said, hey, like I want you to introduce some brown rice. I want you to introduce some broccoli, some sweet potato, butternut squash, cauliflower. And at that point, for me, I've always had a pretty voracious appetite. Like, I mean, anybody who knows me would laugh at that because I could eat like nobody's business. And so, yeah, like when I was able to start introducing some solid foods, my weight gain was like steady, like, and it wasn't dramatic, but it was just like bit by bit, I was definitely adding the pounds back on, and that
Mm.
felt good. And, once I started, hey, like I'm at 150, I'm at 155, like my wife was just, I could see, hope and life returning to her because she was pretty devastated to see me walking around at 140 pounds. Like that was terrifying for her. And so to see that sort of weight gain coming back was just pretty helpful and then definitely motivating as well. But yeah, like we started adding in different fruits and veggies and things that had kind of been still plant-based whole food. But again, when you're in the healing diet, there's a lot of things, a lot of specific fruits and veggies that are kind of a no-go at that time.
Yeah. Well, we introduced them at the right time as well. When it's maybe a little bit of rice here, brown rice, and some other foods that are going to give you a little bit more variety, so that you're going to kind of like eating this way. And I think that was key. And you started enjoying that food, and I think that was important to kind of make your body understand to digest those foods in a better way. And that's another key aspect is the mindset. And I think you had that beautiful vision of what you wanted, and you just wouldn't stop until you got there.
Yeah.
And that's again why you're here today, because that I can't stress that enough. When you have that desire to get better and nothing else but to get better, I think there's your win there, and I think that's what I did with myself. Like I didn't I didn't stop. Like I just kept going and I kept going and I kept going. I said to myself, this is what's going to get me here. And 7 years later, here I am. So it's mind-boggling how time just passes so fast as well.
Yeah.
And you're in this point and you're just like, wow, has it been this long since I haven't had any issues? And you kind of just on to the next and the next and the next year, and then you're gonna be in the same position, as me, and not have any issues. And how good is it that you're not on any medications, mate, and you're not
Oh,
those
it
side
feels
effects?
terrific. It feels terrific. Honestly, I felt like garbage when they had me on these medications that were supposedly, keeping me healthy.
Hmm.
I was still in and out of the hospital as often, if not more often,
Yeah, so
you
talk
know?
about your life now, and I guess explain to the viewers how you feel and how amazing your whole family has taken on this on board.
Yeah, so I mean like our whole family now, um, we eat more or less a plant-based diet. I eat a plant-based diet 100% of the time, but I mean my wife and son, you know, they, they don't have to do it. So they don't do it all the way, but I mean certainly my wife joins me for plant-based whole food
Yep.
meals a lot, more often than not. Definitely probably 70-80% of the time. And so my son is 2.5 years old, so I'll have to be patient with that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I mean, I feel terrific. Like my energy levels are fantastic now. Like I could go for a bike ride for 3 hours, no problem at
Mm.
any moment. I could just go out to the park and go out for a bike ride. And, I've been doing projects around the house. And again, last summer in Calgary, especially, like the weather here in winter is prohibitively cold. You can't
Yeah.
do much in winter
And you
here.
did this through the winter too.
Yeah, yeah, and being freezing cold the whole time. But yeah, no, I mean, like I've got ample energy to tackle projects, to go to work, to be motivated there. It's just it's a real game changer because when I was at that lowest point of my weight loss, I didn't want to do anything except lie on the couch and be still and like conserve energy pretty much.
Mm.
And yeah, so I mean, it's a huge difference now. But I mean, like I feel the healthiest today that I have felt long before I was ever diagnosed. Like I knew years before that ever began that I had, some stomach issues that like, it's just, oh, well, this is just how it is. And turns out I probably should have been a bit more attentive to that, in advance, rather than
Mm,
having to wait for something to go really sideways. But you know what, we learn as we go, and I just hope that other people can hear this and know, like, this doesn't have to be your life. Like being sick does not have to be your life.
definitely, definitely. And obviously, when you have the knowledge about the plant-based diet, it's not only helping your colon or your small intestine, it's helping your heart, it's helping your kidneys. And that's what I
Yeah.
think you learnt a lot about. And I think, the movie Game Changers was a game changer, and it really showed you the potential of how amazing this plant-based diet is. And that's why you are eating a plant-based diet. You're you're basically eating for your longevity, and
Yeah.
this food will keep you healthy for a very, very long time, and that's what the science says. That's what the data says. If you see the blue zones, that the longest living people in the world eat a predominantly plant-based diet, and if they completely ate a plant-based diet, who knows how much older they would get and how much longer they would live. So I think
Yeah.
the odds are stacked in your favor when you're eating this way, and you're reducing your risk of our number one killer, which is heart disease. And that's what
Yeah.
everyone pretty much dies of. 18 million people die of heart disease every single year, and you've just completely reduced your risk of that, stat. So
Yeah.
it's not only for your gut health, and this is the most amazing thing about this diet is that, or this lifestyle, is that it works for so many other health conditions that we have.
It's
So
almost like we were meant to eat this way.
isn't it? I mean, we don't realize that our gut is designed to eat majority of plant foods, and if
Yeah.
if you can heal a chronic disease, people that don't have any disease, they're gonna thrive too, aren't they? If you can go from
Yeah.
disease to ease, you imagine people that start doing this without having that disease. They won't go through all this stuff, and that's why you said if I had done it earlier, and I mean that's hindsight for you, and I wish I did it too, but I would do it all again to be in the position that I am today, 7
Yeah.
years later, because I know how powerful this is.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
cool. So, do you have any tips for anyone that potentially is going through this, or do you have any advice for anyone else that's watching this?
Yeah, I mean, I give you guys huge props, honestly, for what you're doing. Like you are saving lives. It's nothing short of that. It's perfectly legit, and yeah, like I cannot thank you guys enough for having introduced me to this process and kind of just the guidance along the way, man. Like I said, it would have been, I would have given up on this process without somebody saying, I've been there. I had the exact same
Mm.
symptoms you are describing right now. And yeah, there's just, I don't know, it's just been wild. Like I used to snore, for example, and I used to snore extremely loud. My wife would, kick me in the middle of the night just to get me to shut up, and I don't blame her. But when I went through this and all of that kind of mucus and everything left, I don't snore anymore, and I snored for years. So
And that's just
that's just like,
one little thing that has, improved significantly. And there's so many others to go with that.
absolutely. I'm just throwing that in there in the mix for fun, but it's just been such a delight to be able to stack what the doctors said up against what it is now. I mean, the doctors said you'll never be well. You'll be on medication for life. If you ever go off these medications, you'll be so sick, and we're gonna have to do surgery and all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, like, gotcha. Here we are.
Mm.
Like, I'm now defying logic according to the medical profession. They told me it was impossible to be healthy without those drugs, and I'm telling you that I feel the best I've ever felt with or without medication
Mm.
today by eating a different diet.
And it's you've been doing this for a while now. It's not just 6 months as well. So
No, we're
that, yeah,
coming a year.
yeah,
We're
and
coming a year next.
it's not just after finishing the program you feeling this good. You've really stuck to it, and that's why I think it's important to understand for people out there that it's not just 6 months that you've been doing this, it's more than that, and you're still feeling really good. And
Yeah.
you'll continue to feel good just like I am. And it's been so long for me as well. So, you know, this is what we're trying to say to people, that there is a way out for sure, and you've experienced this way out, and it's because you wanted that, you wanted it so bad, and I wanted it more for you because I know what it's like to be on the other side. And when you want it bad, nothing's going to stop you, Steve. And I think you've done such an amazing job, and it's been a pleasure to work with you because you know you've seen some really good things, you've seen some really bad things as well, but you've gotten over those obstacles, and that is what sets you up for the rest of your life too. It's not just something that you are going through this process for a reason. It's just there's so many more things that add up. I mean, in terms of your colleagues and things like that, you know that those people are not going to affect you anymore, for example, because you know what you need to do. And like I said before, there's no distractions, there's no doubt in what you're doing now because you're you're eating fruits and vegetables, which is so unhealthy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I do just honestly, I give you guys a lot of props, and I cannot thank you enough for just the help that you guys have provided, and really returning me to life. Like I felt like I was dying.
Mm,
And really when you're going to the bathroom and you're seeing blood, like that's a pretty good indication that your body is falling
it's
apart.
shutting down.
And so to just see all that stuff kind of in my rearview mirror and thinking like, we're moving ahead into like better and better and better health every day. It's life changing. And yeah, to anybody who's kind of skeptical of this program and working with these guys, like I'm telling you right now, you will not regret it. You give it 100% and you will be out of all the troubles that you've been experiencing, all the health issues that you've been experiencing. Like that does not have to be the way it is.
Yeah,
So,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. And thank you for saying that, and thank you so much for sharing your story because I think, there will be people like people out there that will be able to relate to you because it's just the same message over and over again that we have been seeing, that the solution is not medication, the solution is
yeah,
diet, and a plant-based diet for that because you're reducing your risk of so many other diseases. The gut microbiome is all about plants. That's what it
yeah,
thrives on. And the science is coming out now, making sure that we're looking towards this way of life. Because that science is always going to be catching up to what you're doing because no one is going to be doing the test. No one has done the test, but now the tests are coming out that the microbiome is so it's thriving on plant foods, whole plant foods, and a variety of plant foods. So we want to make sure that we stick to that. And there's a wonderful book that I want you to go and get if you can, and have a read of that too. It's called Fiber Fueled, by
okay,
Dr. Will. And anyone out there that's listening as well, please go buy this book. It's one of the best books that I have read on gut health in terms of the science behind it, and the research. So it's a really good book to read for anyone out there. But no, thanks so much, Steve. It was fantastic having you on our channel, and I
thanks.
wish you all the best. And if you end up here in New Zealand, or if I end up in Canada, I'll definitely message you, and we'll catch up and have a nice meal together.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
for
what it's about. We've developed a relationship, and you're not a client anymore. You're a friend, and
yeah,
it's so great to see you thrive and your family thrive because this is a life changer for you, and I'm so happy for you.
yeah. Thank you, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys too. Like probably the best decision I've ever made. Well, I'm not gonna get myself in trouble here. One of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's fantastic, Steve. All right, thank you so much.
right on, man. Thanks.
Give this video a thumbs up if you know what it's like to have colitis or Crohn's disease, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. This channel was about helping people recover from colitis and Crohn's disease. If you go to our website and fill out the health survey, you are entitled to a free 30-minute consult from anywhere in the world. We look forward to hearing from you. And always remember, there is a life after colitis and Crohn's.